itself to make a deck that at a glance seemed to just be a fun, sort of casual budget deck is now actually making a massive impact here in the World Championships. We've got so many tools in the game to search out the specific Pokemon you need to fulfill that requirement of having one of each of the Regis in play. Meanwhile, going up against the titan of the metagame, that Palkia deck. I know that Isaiah at NAIC was one of the early adopters of the Battle VIP Pass variants, trying to get those explosive starts. And at this level of play, we've said it over and over again, Ethan, if you can just have that ability to get an early high roll, have that massive tempo right out of the gate, you can pick up a win otherwise when your opponent might be able to shut you down.
Yeah, these prizes are important. 3 Regi Pokemon prized for Pablo. Isaiah prizing the Manaphy. That's a pretty key card. The Terra Spark attack on Regieleki does damage the bench Pokemon and can set the Palkia up for perfect math. Here we go. We're jumping into things. Round number 5 between both of these players. And Isaiah starting off the best way he possibly can with that gold Battle VIP Pass.
Battle VIP Pass, getting the setup completed. And this is some of the huge power that this deck wants. You just get immediately the Sobbles already prepared in play, Radiant Greninja to get that online, the Palkia V, get that set up on your first turn so you can hopefully get that energy attachment, threaten with the evolution, and from there, your opponent is already on the back foot. You've got pretty much your entire setup ready to go. And Pablo, starting out with Regirock in the opener, is not the best attacker for this list. It has a lot of flexibility with, again, the Regi Ice and things of that nature, but specifically Regirock is probably on the lower end of what you want to see to start out. But with, as you said, the Pokestops and all these other different tools, this list can also go from seemingly nothing to having all of the Regis collected and ready to go to activate that Ancient Wisdom. Pablo only on 1 copy of the Hisuian Heavy Ball, so needs to fish that out quickly to get the missing Regis out of the prize cards.
Yeah, Isaiah Bradner not running it back with the same 60 cards as NAIC, opting to now play the quick shooting Inteleon from Chilling Rain, as well as Crobat V for a little bit extra draw. We've seen that card come back into play throughout this weekend to get some more heavy-hitting power. An interesting card, not relevant in this matchup, but the Canceling Cologne is a great way to shut Manaphy off and give yourself access to a big turn where you can bypass the water availability on Manaphy, hit these bench Pokemon, and yeah, take some extra prize cards, do what you need to do. But resuming back to the game, Isaiah Bradner grabbing the Palkia and Sobble off this Battle Pass. Unable to play a supporter, but when you're playing for Battle Pass in your deck, the whole point is to try to find these going first so you can really pop off and take knockouts consistently on your second turn before your opponent has a chance to attack.
Once you get this first Battle VIP Pass, the setup is done. All the remaining copies just become fodder for your quick balls, etc. So Isaiah already off to a fantastic setup. Has the Radiant Greninja as well. This is the perfect turn for Palkia decks, and Pablo going to respond, has Regigigas, has Regieleki, going to attach that choice belt, already looking for that lightning attacker to take advantage of this water deck's weakness.
So the whole setup here really revolves around getting all 6 Pokemon in play, needed to utilize the
and the heavy ball, beautiful.
Yeah, wow, big heavy ball there as well. This is really up to Pablo now to make a decision of what Pokemon do I grab at this point. It's most likely going to be either the Regice or the Regidrago. Regice seems like probably the better grab because Regidrago can be grabbed other ways, but instead it's actually going to be the Regirock getting out of the prize cards. You already have one in the play, but there's a good chance that it gets knocked out the following turn, so you're just going to want that to respond in comparison to if it gets knocked out, you're forced to find Ordinary Rod to get there. As we see the Twin Energy attached, and Regirock has a solid attack, especially as you're getting set up on the first turn of the game if you're going second. It's Regigate, allowing you to search your deck for a Pokemon with Regi in its name and put it onto your bench. All these Pokemon, Regieleki, Regiice, Regidrago, and the Regidrago will be the selection put on to the Pokemon. It's actually a Pokemon with a basic, rather. It is a basic Pokemon, but in this deck, it's only Regi Pokemon. It's going to be the Regidrago. Pablo's looking pretty comfortable to get up this Ancient Wisdom ability running on the following turn. We'll need to find some of these special energy cards that provide some color in the energy attacks, such as the Aurora Energy and the Speed Lightning energies. Both work for that Regieleki. Does need 2 Lightning and 1 colorless energy.
the lightning energy. So important as well to get that extra card draw. Try to find those missing pieces, those missing Reggies. But as I said, Pablo already showcasing how quickly all of the Reggies can be assembled, and hopefully you know, can start getting some attacks off. Isaiah had a perfect setup turn, is not going to fall behind in terms of setup, in terms of tempo whatsoever. And now we have the threat of the Origin form Palkia V-Star with Capacious Bucket here with the Concealed Cards ability, going to start putting that first water energy into the discard pile, already working towards that Star Portal.
Yeah, if you're Isaiah, you're pretty scared of that bench Regieleki, and already having the choice band on, or rather choice belt on it, means that it is threatening a big Terra Spark attack for 150 damage before weakness. It'll be interesting to see how many of these choice belts that are being played. Pablo understands the importance of this card and has opted to run 4 copies of them. Most times you see Reggie decks before the inclusion of Pokestop, or rather after being released in the Pokemon Go expansion. Maybe play 2. Some decks value it and play 3, but the fact that you can draw into it off the Pokestop, discarding the top 3 cards of your deck, if there's an item card there, it goes to your hand, you discard the other cards. It's a win-win. On the win side, you get items into your hand to accelerate your strategy. And even on the worst case, you discard some special energies. You're going to want those in the discard pile anyways to get back. Isaiah Bradner's not done, though. Irida can grab the Cross Switcher, and I think Isaiah also understands the importance of taking out these Regielekis. Doesn't know how many Choice Belt Pablo is playing, but getting rid of it means that Pablo is going to have to search, find for it, and get it onto these Regielekis to take these one-hit knockouts.
Irida, the other piece of the puzzle, allows you to search so fluidly for those cards that you need in the deck. Finds the one cross switcher and the Drizzile, and then Drizzile becomes the second cross switcher. So now we have access to that fantastic ability to get that gusting effect while also using your supporter for the turn. Beautiful deck thinning, and now we're going to try to chase down this Regieleki, take down that lightning threat before it becomes an issue.
Yep, so of course you're going to need to play these recovery cards to get the Reggie Pokemon back into play. 4 Ordinary Rod, there's just a lot of 4-ups in this deck. 4 Scoop Net, Ordinary Rod, a lot of the search options as well. All things to expect when you can utilize Pokestop to the best of the ability. I think this is the card, or the deck rather, that Pokestop, when it was revealed, people were like, okay, if there's one deck that's really going to shine because of the inclusion of Pokestop, this is the one. Double Cross Switcher to bring up the Regieleki. Isaiah Bradner taking the first knockout, going to 5 prize cards, as Regidrago enters the active position. And hand is not looking great, but Dragon's Horde is a great ability that can allow the Reggie player to have a little bit of extra draw support. Fill the hand up to 4. We could see this hand get thinned down all the way, but it would require discarding some key pieces that Pablo is going to need for this upcoming turn.
Already the thinning begins, trying to find, again, we still need Regi Ice. We need to get the Aurora energies into the discard pile. Pablo has the Pokemon in play, but needs to get the rest of the supporting engine, you know, properly set up so we can begin swinging. Isaiah properly pressuring after having such a beautiful setup into the cross switcher play, going to continuously strike down the Reggies repeatedly, and it's going to force Pablo not only to focus on finding the Aurora energies, but also recovering the lost Reggies from the discard pile so they can be rebenched.
They're all here. They're all ready to go. All 6 Reggie Pokemon are available, which means that the abilities can be utilized. Ancient Wisdom is available. You can go ahead and attach 3 energy cards from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, and you can start to see how this deck has access to so many different powerful attacks. You can use the attachment in order to find any of your Reggies into an attacking aggressive position. It also allows you to, if you've got 2 of them set up, you can pay for that hefty retreat cost to get it out of the active. As we said, Pablo is playing the 4 Scoop Up Net in order to make sure these Reggies don't get stranded when you want to attack. But for now, Pablo needs to find those Aurora energies and get those into the discard pile. Energy Lotto looking at the top cards of the deck, going to try to find it here. There's the Aurora. Yeah, it does find the Aurora energy. That's very important. Go ahead and discard that, or even attach it to this Regieleki. He really wants to utilize the attachments for turn. The speed lightning energies, those are very important because you can just draw some extra cards. You fulfill the attack requirement as well, and you already see the speed energies in hand, so Aurora Energy there, going to be a good way to discard. Also has access to the Pokestop Stadium card. One of these draws does draw into a supporter for a turn. We haven't seen that yet, so that could go ahead and happen. The Energy Lotto is, rather the Aurora Energy is in hand. It's really where you don't want to see that card because you want to be able to draw into it. You know you're not going to find it off Pokestop unless you reorganize the deck via a searching card before you utilize it. So let's see what these cards provide. Is there any way to discard special energies? Wow, an excellent draw there. Finds the Quick Ball in combination with a few special energies. If there's a way to get something like a Scoop Up Net and another energy in the discard pile,
but no. Here.
Yeah, looks like already utilized the Pokestop, so unable to make that happen. Isaiah Bradner's going to be able to take another prize card here. Could target down the Regieleki. There's so many lines available. The main thing really is just to make sure that at the end of the day, you want to try to exhaust Pablo's as many resources. Every time you knock these Regi Pokemon out, Pablo has to recover them in order to continue getting these attackers powered up. And at the same time, on Isaiah's side, you've got to string together these attacks to respond to Regieleki. Your Palkia could be in danger the following turn as long as there's a Choice Belt and 2 more energy onto this Regieleki. So both players are considering multiple lines of play. You've got to adapt. These players are known as top players for reasons because they've shown that no matter the situation, they can find a way to get out of it and succeed.
This Regi deck really came exploding onto the scene once players thought it was just a fun deck and proved that it had a little bit more going for it. And then it started to get countered. Players were running tons of Avery, trying to shut down the bench space and try to bully it down. But even then, the deck adapted in turn and was able to have the resiliency and the ability to recover those lost Regis and keep the train going. And so now Pablo is showing, hey, if with all of the other techs and big, scary decks that you need to account for, this Regi deck isn't going to be hard countered. But we can see here, even without Isaiah countering it directly with Avery or other things like that, you still need to jump through some hoops to get those Aurora Energies into the discard pile to activate the Ancient Wisdom. Regigigas was benched on the first turn and just been sitting here waiting and waiting and waiting for the rest of the setup to happen.
I remember Block Face Ice Cube. that card was played when this deck was considered to be a threat to just utilize Block Face over and over again. But Isaiah Bradner, again, just understands, hey, all your other Regi Pokemon, I can deal with them. They're one-price Pokemon that sometimes don't even two-hit knock out my Palkia. Your Regieleki is a threat, so anytime you play one down, I'm going to do my best to utilize my Gusting cards on it. And when it comes to Gusting cards, Isaiah is still playing 4 copies of the Cross Switcher. That is still a card that is valued as powerful and a way to gust up. And there's only 1 Boss's Orders. So we've already seen 2 out of 3 Gusting effects played. Have to wonder if you're Pablo, you understand that there can only be maybe a maximum of 3, maybe 4 Gusting effects. Just try to play around that, and the fact that it also didn't remove a Choice Belt is, in a sense, you don't want to lose your Regieleki, but it's fine now that you can attach a Choice Belt to this new one. 7 fresh new cards. What do we see? Does have the way to pivot out the Regigigas with Manual Retreat, and I believe there is also now enough energy in the discard pile. So I believe the knockout is there. Going to utilize Pokestop as well, getting rid of the Ordinary Rod, but it goes back into the hand, and now that seals it up completely. The Aurora Energies in the discard pile, they can be brought back. We're going to see our first Ancient Wisdom ability. Look at this power. This Regieleki is ready to spark away.
Beautiful. This is the other way to get those energies in the discard, is to just build up one of the Regis and use that heavy retreat cost to get those discarded. Regieleki now in the active with the Choice Belt, trying to find the rest of the pieces to take down this Origin Form Palkia, take 2 prize cards and even it up.
Pablo taking 2 prize cards, finds that Hisuian Heavy Ball that was put back into the prizes. This can grab the other Regi pieces. However, Pablo's main goal is to just replace Regieleki every turn. There's really no reason Isaiah Bradner would be going after these pieces specifically that are not Regieleki, because if you leave the Regieleki with a Choice Belt, it's there to threaten an attack the following turn.
The Regieleki, as you already talked about, Ethan, so important, and it's just part of this Regi deck. It has a very fun, unique setup style, but it still has that single prizer toolbox angle that we've seen so many lists with, like the Radiant Charizard, try to take advantage of. It's channeling a little bit of that flexible energy, having a lot of different attacking types available thanks to the Aurora Energy. So easy to get so many threats in play and just pivot into whatever you need.
Yep, we'll see the other Palkia get grabbed, and here we go. Inteleon, Shady Dealings. This can grab a variety of different pieces. The knockout is there, and we haven't really talked about this, but sort of throughout the weekend we have that Aqua Bullet Inteleon, or Shady Dealings Inteleon, should sometimes be known as Aqua Bullet Inteleon, because that attack is pretty powerful. The math lines up perfectly against Regieleki. Most of these Regi Pokemon, besides Regigigas has 150. It's a little bit of a tankier boy, but every other Pokemon besides Regieleki has 130 HP. That's just short of Aqua Bullet knocking it out, but Regieleki, a little bit bouncier, a little bit more spry, has only 120 HP, so Aqua Bullet can line up the math and can also deal a little bit of damage to a bench Pokemon to line it up for later. Star Portal has already been used, though, so I have to imagine if you're Isaiah, you want some advantage when it comes to Disruption and Acceleration. Marnie's a good start on that first point.
Marnie shuffling all the hands down, trying to reset Pablo, make it a little bit harder to find any missing Regis or recovery to get this Alecki back. This means that the heavy ball, I believe, that was in the hand is going to be down at the bottom, and Isaiah just slowly closing in on the prizes, taking the advantage here of also promoting a single prize Pokemon to slow Pablo down as well. Needs to buy a couple turns to set up the next Palkia to maybe attack in. Yeah,
this hand is excellent. The only thing it's missing right now is a way to get this Regieleki back from the discard pile. Needs to find an Ordinary Rod. Had 2 Cynthia's Ambition and can now utilize it. We saw this card a lot when Urshifu, Rapid Strike Urshifu was played, and now we're finally seeing it again. Cynthia's Ambition fills your hand up to 5, but if one of your Pokemon was knocked out the previous turn, you get to fill your hand up to 8 instead. An incredibly powerful effect, and look at that. There's the Ordinary Rod, can put back both Regieleki. Now comes the question of how are you going to get this Regidrago out of the active spot? Scoop Up Net seems like the only option as of right now.
All the Scoop Up Nets and the Ordinary Rods having to be used repeatedly to pivot these heavy Regis out of the active to find the Regieleki. Puts them back in the deck and then immediately fishes it out with the Quick Ball. And now after the shuffle, we need to find a way to get this Regidrago out. As I said, you can just Ancient Wisdom onto that active and then retreat to send those energies back into the discard pile, but then you're still promoting a Regi that your opponent can just knock out, and then you have to jump through the hoops once again of recovering a Regi. Do we have a double, perhaps, that you can just place down? The idea, I guess, would be retreat maybe into Regi Ice. We know there's one in the prizes. Then if you find that Heavy Ball, we can get the Regi Ice.
No, this is a really smart play with what's happening right now. Usually players would be like, okay, I'm going to use Terra Spark again to take a knockout, but your Giant Fang does just enough damage to knock out this Inteleon, and that means you don't have to sacrifice a Regieleki to take this knockout. You can use Regidrago. You still got another one in the prize cards. You know you now have the Yasuian Heavy Ball, ways to recover that card as well. At this point now, Isaiah Bradner down 2 of the 3 gusting effects. The Regieleki already has this choice belt. On top of that, Isaiah's not going to have the ability to just search out cards with Irida because Star Portal has already been used. There's no energy in play. Melanie is going to have to be the supporter of choice if Isaiah wants to attack.
So many games coming down to 3 cards off of Melanie to find that missing piece. It's not typically a position you find yourself in when you're using the Inteleon engine. These Palkia decks seem to have access to their entire deck at any given time, but indeed the Drizzile does find the Melanie, and we need to draw a few more cards to find a way to take down this Regidrago. Pablo opting for just 2 of the Dragon's Horde variants, not trying to use the other that has that big attacking effect.
Listen, that one is what I definitely like, that there are higher counts of Dragon's Horde. You'd rather have consistency in this deck than a 240 damage attack that sometimes can deal a little bit less. Definitely on
Especially
Pablo's
with the
side,
quick shooting being so popular nowadays, the Dragon Energy is just not the way to go.
Yeah, you've got better attackers as well, but here's the Melanie. It's going to go ahead and accelerate this onto the bench, and this makes me think that Isaiah's got access to the Cross Switchers potentially, has used the only Shady Dealings ability available for this turn. The route's pretty clear for Isaiah if he's able to find this. Attack with the Palkia V-Star this turn. From there, you're going to put yourself in a spot. Oh, wow, he's going to risk this Pokestop here. Does this find the pivoting card? No, does put the Battle Pass and the Evolution Incense in the hand, but this Evolution Incense can't grab anything. I think was banking off of finding the Cross Switcher to take a knockout onto this Regieleki, but at the cost of getting putting yourself into a little bit more of an advantageous position, Isaiah seems, unless I don't really think I see 2 Cross Switcher, maybe there are.
If Isaiah misses out on the attack here, Pablo can maybe swing again with this Regieleki, and then, you know, the prize trade starts to become edged into Pablo's favor here.
Yeah, the game works out very differently depending on if Isaiah gets this. If Isaiah is able to bring this Pokemon up, he's in a pretty solid spot. Can go ahead and take this, go to 2 prize cards, and then can utilize the Roxanne in combination with taking a knockout to pretty much put their opponent in a spot where they've got to get another choice belt. And wow, no, doesn't have the Cross Switcher counts, has to commit the energy to this active Palkia. This is a huge miss from Isaiah.
And just has to rule the region. This attack that you never seem to see has just been another random failsafe for these decks, just to do something for the turn. You know, thinning is winning, as they say, but here it is, the Ancient Wisdom now accelerating the Regieleki, and the Regidrago, powered up from the last turn, can just throw all of these energies back into the discard pile and retreat, and Regieleki is back into the active and ready to go with the Choice Spell. This isn't even a Palkia V-Star, 220 HP as well within swinging distance, and 2 prizes go over to Pablo. 1 more prize to take here in the first game of Swiss Round 5.
As we've seen, though, this game is not over. Roxanne is definitely a condition. Dragon's Horde provides a little bit of protection against that, can fill the hand up to 4. We see the Roxanne already in hand, understands the potential of Drizzile later down in the future. Use the Screw on that, and there it is. Gets thrown down right away. Roxanne. So Isaiah is gonna, they can't take multi-prize turns at this point, especially with Star Portal being used. So Isaiah's track to win is to knock out this Regieleki, hope another one doesn't come down to play to turn on the Ancient Wisdom ability, and then hope that for 1 more turn, the math is not there to be able to take a knockout onto this Palkia. That's what it's going to come down to at this point. These are going to be a big 2 cards for Pablo. What are they? Does find the Pokestop, and that could be a big opening to find some pieces next turn. Isaiah's got the attack lined up here at this point. Maybe can try to power up another Palkia to pivot into and force Pablo to have the gusting effect, but with the way this hand works, there's no shady dealings. It doesn't look like any quick ball either. Maybe stuck trying to ride on this Palkia to close this game number 1 out.
We've seen games come down to a clutch game state like this, where you need your opponent to have the, you know, that gust or something, and the Roxanne buys just enough time, throws your opponent off balance, and you can make it happen. But Regieleki goes down. Regidrago back up into the active, going to use the Dragon's Horde to counteract the Roxanne.
Yeah, all that's needed now at this point is a single Choice Belt. A Choice Belt will close this game out. Boss's Orders as well down the line can do it. And here we go, Pokestop being played down. Marnie, these are a big 5 cards. Do we see the Choice Belt? No, not quite. Can thin it out a little bit more with the Energy Lotto, with the Quick Ball as well. These are choices you've got to make. We'll see the Energy Lotto get played first. Would it have been in the top 3? It wouldn't have been in the top 3, so that's definitely a little bit of a relief. Can go and find one of these energy cards. If Pablo wants to, can play another Quick Ball from the hand to find a Pokemon. It's 1 less card you're going to be seeing. This is getting tense. Pablo may have to just spin the wheel here with Pokestop. Spin the Pokestop, if you may say, and try to get the Choice Belt.
Once the Pokestop comes down, it's so tempting to use, but Pablo is going to try to make something happen without needing to use it first. The deck's so thin.
Yeah, there's 1 Choice Belt in the deck. There is still an Ordinary Rod as well, so if for some instance Pablo misses here, there is a way to get Pokemon back, and it's not the end of the world at this position. Looks like the deck is pretty thin as well, so maybe a 1 in 5 opportunity here to find it. And here we go, Pokestop. Do we see the Ordinary, or excuse me, we do see the Ordinary Rod, but we are going to Dragon's Horde up first, it looks like. Thinning the hand down to 0. Let's see how many cards are in there. It looks like 7 cards left. The Pokestop's there, and there it is, the Choice Belt in hand. We can see the Ancient Wisdom potentially. Oh wait, no, there's no scoop up net. There's no way to pivot this Regieleki out of the active.
Yeah, the Regidrago is stuck. The Regieleki's not powered up just yet. Trying to find that Ancient Wisdom power-up. Can we get a manual attachment? That was already done.
Yeah, this position is still fine at this point because you can utilize the Dragon's Horde, or rather you can utilize Ancient Wisdom to attack the active, and Isaiah understands that needs time. That was a long game 1, almost 25 minutes. Pablo taking it so far up 1-0, showing us that, hey, Regieleki, the whole point of this deck is you're a 1 prize deck that hits weakness on most of the format. You hit great weakness onto Palkia. You've got the Regirock to hit weakness onto Arceus, and you've got a miscellaneous various types to hit against whatever comes up against you. You have a 5 fire deck you play against, Reggie Ice works well. If you've got some deck that is weak to metal, you've got the Reggie Steel. Reggie Steel also very good against things like Mew, V hitting very hard. This deck has a lot of answers for a lot of different decks. It's what makes it good. It can be inconsistent at times, but after how Pablo navigated through that matchup, this deck looked very, very consistent and won pretty convincingly at the end.
It was Operation Saving Private Reggie Alecki. Every time it went down, it came right back with the ordinary rod, just fishing it back out of the discard pile. And the Reggies, the miscellaneous squad, has that way to stand up to the opponent trying to disrupt them in any capacity. I love that there were so many different pivots and so many different options available thanks to that ancient wisdom. And Isaiah Bradner, even with the perfect start, that Battle VIP pass turn 1, the Radiant Greninja, the Palkia, just couldn't keep up the level of threat that Pablo was able to output, because you spend so much time chasing down the Reggie Alecki or trying to take a return knockout. It just doesn't go through for you after that first Palkia goes down. Isaiah
wants to get right into it. There's the prize cards here. Nothing too relevant, a few Pokemon, but Isaiah's starting things out the same way as Game 1. Battle VIP pass. Gonna kick things off. It's really gonna come down to what Isaiah did for the most part is pretty standard. It's how you navigate through this matchup. You want to attack with 3 2-prize Pokemon and 1 1-prize Pokemon. You want to utilize the first 2-prize Pokemon, then another one usually, and you want to weave a 1-prize Pokemon in, sometimes before, sometimes after, but the whole point is you want to pretty much go Rock Sand on your opponent, and you pretty much force them to hit the whole Reggie Alecki Choice Belt play, or they have to find a Gusting Effect to take a knockout on the last 1-prize Pokemon.
So now we've got Reggie Gigas stranded in the active. And now against the Sobble, Isaiah going for the exact same opener with the Battle VIP pass, has the Palkia, Radiant Greninja, and you can see he's so excited to jump into this game. This isn't a very fast play where there's going to be mistakes. It's Isaiah already knowing this deck like the back of his hand, very confident in the plays, and trying to make this a short game 2 to have as much time as possible for game 3. Isaiah is already planning around this set going to game number 3.
Yeah, a tie is almost the same as a loss for Isaiah at this point. And the only advantage to a tie is maybe avoiding an extra round because of an asymmetrical cut or something to do with that, but that is not the concern for Isaiah. Isaiah just wants to make top cut at this point. Isaiah's mind is on the prize, but when it comes to Pablo's setup so far, it's really going to just come down to how fast things get set up. We've seen it on stream before. I'm having flashbacks to Milwaukee Regionals. We saw an incredible skill of display where, and it was actually John Eng, where his opponent went and got a turn 1 knockout with the Reggie deck. And it can happen. Listen, you can find all the pieces you need, and you can get a knockout on the first turn. You have access to a supporter card to dig through your deck. All of your search options, find it. You've got 4 Quick Ball. You've got a lot of copies of Ultra Ball as well. It's possible. The only hard part is getting the energies in the discard pile, and it's now a little bit easier thanks to Pokestop, improving your consistency, and getting those energies potentially in the discard pile.
And at the end of the day, you can just start manually attaching and saying, if this Reggie gets knocked out, or if I get enough energy on it, I can retreat and get those energies into the discard pile the hard way. But Reggie Drago finds his way into the active spot to use that powerful Dragon's Horde.
Yeah, at this point here, there's going to be some big cards. Do we see a way to discard these? Okay, does have the energy Lottos and a speed lightning energy. I think the question, though, is do you really want to attack with the Reggie Alecki to take a knockout on the Sobble, or would you rather have other outs? Pablo's going to take some time to think that over, look through the hand. There are some Aurora energies. Those are what you want to have. I think the debate for Pablo at this point is, do I want to put these in hand when I really want to discard these off Pokestop? It's sort of the trade-off where you can have them for hand for future turns to get your attachments and draw some more cards or discard some cards from your hand. But the downside is, you want those in the deck now because of Pokestop. The gameplay and the way you play this deck has changed slightly now that this card is available. It really benefits this deck. You just have to play around it and use it to your advantage.
And now, with the Energy Lotto already resolved, we're just going right back into it. It has the Twin Energy as well. And the Reggie Drago's just getting set up. I love the potential of the Dragon's Horde, allowing you to just dig through the deck just that little bit extra. This Reggie deck can somehow, when it looks like it's set up, can miss one piece and suddenly just be thrown into chaos. But Pablo is finding a way to keep the consistency of the Reggies up and running. There's the Speed Lightning Energy to draw 2 more cards. And we're still missing a few more Reggies. We need Reggie Ice and we need Reggie Steel.
Yeah, quick ball, very nice grab. That can go ahead and get rid of one of the energy cards in hand. This is kind of one of the positions where you're like, oh, well, I mean, you had to draw the cards with speed lightning anyways, but if there was still the attachment for turn, it would technically be there at this point. You would have the, looks like, would have enough energy in here. No, just the one actually. So not quite, unfortunately, just a little bit short of being able to get there. But the thing to note, though, is all 6 Reggies are coming into play turn 1. That's how explosive this deck can be if it finds the right pieces.
You'd think that it would be a lot harder to make this achievement happen, but the Pokemon TCG has proven to be so consistent, so many engines.
Well, that's big. That's a big discard.
Discard with the Pokestop.
That gets rid of the Aurora energy. That's 2 in the discard. So now my point stands if there was the attachment for turn. Okay, see, I had the right idea in mind at this point.
There we go.
Yeah, there's the Regice and Ancient Wisdom. It's online and ready to provide some knowledge to the rest of these Reggie Pokemon.
Isaiah's like, please, my Sobble, please.
Yeah, both players are having a great time. This is what you love to see. Even when the competition gets fierce and intense, these players want to have a good time and just share their love for the game.
There's the Ancient Wisdom onto the Regieleki. Regidrago, still no way to get it out of the active, but the setup is now complete. Isaiah gets one more turn to at least get a Drizzile.
Yeah, so Isaiah only has access to 1 Shady Dealings ability this turn. Really wants to preserve Star Portal if possible, but I think the ideal scenario is your Regieleki is threatened. Got to find a way to deal with that. It's going to be interesting to see how Isaiah navigates through that, but Evolution Incense to grab Drizzile, something we've seen a long time, but using Gusting Effects early means you're not going to have access to that later and can lead to some plays where Pablo can force up these attackers to set up Mav and maybe protect his Regielekis on the bench, waiting for them to get a choice belt, because otherwise you're setting up for a 2-hit knockout. It's usually just better to hit with one of your other Pokemon that's not as valuable later on or even in the earlier mid-game.
Yeah, we've seen the, Radiant Charizard, for example, an attacker that you can get out of the discard pile and just immediately get it set up as an attacking threat, and that's exactly what this Regi deck can do. Even if this Regieleki does go down, we can try to bring it right back up and then get it powered up with the Ancient Wisdom ability, and then we've got this beautiful Lightning attacker ready to swing back in. But so far, Isaiah's just trying to respond, has the Drizzile now, looking for, again, the Gusting Effect potentially to chase down this Regieleki. It doesn't have the belt on it yet, so it doesn't seem as worth, but still so much more setup needs to happen for Isaiah. We know that this Drizzile is going to go down, so we need to make sure that there is something set up and ready to shift into the active spot for that to happen. It's a real shame because, as you said, Ethan, you want to sprinkle in a single prize attacker, and we saw the Aqua Bullet really do a little bit of work there in game number 1, and hopefully Isaiah can replicate that, finds the Manaphy at the very least.
Yeah, Isaiah's going to go ahead and utilize Shady Dealings. Also checking through the deck. You have to do it just to make sure you're not making plays where you think you have pieces in deck, but it's all time to consider. We've got a little bit over 18 minutes left. The way things are looking right now, 3 games may be hard to complete, and again, neither of these players want to tie, but Isaiah has the play to utilize Boss's Orders, evolve, using the V-Star power early yet again in game number 2. Still going to get the full effect, though, so we'll be able to power up this Palkia V-Star and potentially another one. I like the play onto the Palkia because there is a route where you want to evolve and then scoop up net this Inteleon the following turn. And by putting energy, it's just saying, well, it's just going to get discarded. I'd rather have this another thing. Having energy advantage is important because it allows you to utilize Roxanne more. You need to be able to attack as well in combination with that card. It's all possible thanks to Star Portal V-Star power.
Just a small decision there, where do you want to distribute this energy? Where do I want to diversify my threats? But we have the Origin Form Palkia V-Star now in the active. Regirock going to go up just to buy some time while we look for the tool to get Regieleki back. Beautiful
that is a great discard. Yeah, that is incredible. That is exactly what Pablo wanted. Just going to get rid of some cards. The Marnie is not exactly what you're looking for, but at this point, Pablo's strategy, Regice does have the Blizzard Bind attack. It does deal 100 damage and prevent any V Pokemon from attacking, and that could be Pablo's strategy at this point. The only issue is you're going to get down a Regieleki anyways if you want to be able to attack with it, and at that point, if your opponent has to cross-switcher to get out of the effect, they're more than happy to knock out the Pokemon they were wanting to attack anyways, which is that Regieleki.
When you are playing a single prize deck, you can take some oddball turns, even if your opponent has the counters for what you're trying to do, has their setup completed. They have to still take 6 prizes. You know, you still have a lot of room there to complete the game. And now that Pablo is taking game one, has 17 minutes left here in round, for game number 2 in the overall round of Swiss. He's still feeling pretty confident that you can win this and make it a clean 2-0. Isaiah Bradner, however, has 2 Palkia set up, can keep that attack train going, trying to counter, trying to keep up in the prize trade game. But Pablo now is getting the energies counted out, has another acceleration coming, maybe going to do something cheeky with this Regirock.
Yeah, we will see the capture energy go down onto the Regice. There's, I believe, almost all of the Aurora energy already in the discard pile, so those will all be available for Pablo to utilize Ancient Wisdom and put those back onto some Pokemon in play. Also has the Choice Belt as well. If there's a Scoop Up net that can go and utilize something else, I think Pablo is deciding whether or not to commit this Choice Belt. He understands that Isaiah's game plan regardless is to target down these Regielekis, so if you're not attacking with the Choice Belt on it, the only way it can get disrupted from the hand is if something like a Marnie comes down, and that's not possible at this point unless the Cross Switcher also comes down. That's a lot of resources used so early on.
And at the end of the day, you get your Giga Impact, you get your 140 damage onto the Palkia, and then you can maybe get that knockout a little bit later. Pablo does have a couple copies of Boss's Orders, of course, and so this just becomes another liability for Isaiah.
Yeah, and speaking of Marnie, it actually gets played here at this point. So the Regice only has 1 energy on it. Great set of cards, though, can thin the hand down and utilize Dragon Horde, things we see in Pablo do time and time again. Isaiah's got this knockout lined up. There is the potential for the Regieleki to also get knocked out. That's the advantage of playing Cross Switcher in your deck. It's harder to find than a Boss's Orders, but you don't have to use your supporter card for turn. You also have to risk more deck slots, but at the same time, drawing cards, digging through your deck, and also finding a way to Gust are 2 of the most powerful effects in the game. And if you can do both on the same turn, you will put yourself in an excellent spot.
The Regi engine is up and running. Regirock goes down, taking those energies along with him, but Ancient Wisdom is going to bring that right back out into play. Regidrago going to be promoted into the active, maybe to use this Dragon's Horde if need be. I believe we have another Regirock ready to go. Ordinary Rod being eyed here, just going to double check the discard prizes, the discard pile, making sure that there is a couple Regis in there to recover. First, Speed Lightning, thinning just a little bit. I mean, Pablo is in the driver's seat here. The setup is completed. Now it's just a matter of continuously finding that missing Regi, keeping the engine up and running smooth. Quick ball to discard the Scoop Up net.
Yeah, Pablo had a hard choice, was thinking about discarding the Scoop Up net or the Boss's Orders. Values having that Gust towards the end of the game to take that last prize that Isaiah's going to try to play around and put a bigger Pokemon to the active.
That way when it gets Roxanne, it'll still be in the deck for you to fish out.
Yeah, so you hate to see the Scoop Up nets go. We saw how vital they were for Pablo in game 1. Already down 2 copies of it now, I believe, so only has 2 more left. But at this point, we could also see a big-time play where something else gets targeted down this turn with Boss's Orders.
Yeah,
go after another Pokemon. Could actually go after the Palkia, the Origin Form Palkia V on the bench. But no, it looks like we're just going to see the Regirock attack again. And I like this play. You do utilize the Scoop Up net this turn, but you make it so that you have the Dragon's Horde Regidrago to promote to start the turn, so that need be, whatever happens, you have the ability to fill your hand up, get going again, and find the Regis Pokemon you need to utilize Ancient Wisdom.
These decks, we talk so much about getting the setup, getting your engine up and running, but this isn't a deck that once it gets set up, it just starts playing itself. We're seeing these players showcase these micro decisions, these small efficiencies where you can promote one Pokemon over the other so you have pivots. You're giving yourself extra options to play around what your opponent's going to respond with. And already Irida setting up for Isaiah, finding the next piece of the puzzle. What do you think he's going to grab at this situation?
Yeah, with Drizzle coming up, I think it might be time for Inteleon to put in some work. We could also see the Inteleon grab the Cross Switcher. The more I think about it, this Regirock is going to not be knocked out by an Aqua Bullet, and the problem with spreading damage around or trying to set up for those plays is Scoop Up net can just heal it all up, and you don't mind discarding the energies or cards attached because, hey, you can just bring them right back with the Ancient Wisdom ability as well.
JD Dealington Inteleon finds a training court. Going to bump that Pokestop, trying to cut off those resources, trying to cut off that deck thinning that Pablo's been enjoying this whole time.
Yeah, definitely solid. You know you're going to lose the Stadium War when it comes to this. Pablo's running max 4 copies of Pokestop, but really for the effect of getting it, it's pretty much just like a worse energy retrieval for the turn. You get one back, and it's the same if it stays in play for 2 turns, and Pablo's not going to benefit from it. But okay, we are actually going to see the Aqua Bola and Teleon attack it.
Ooh, with the Galarian Zigzagoon to fix that math. Beautiful. So we're going to get another knockout, trying to just stay ahead in the prize trade.
Yeah, I think the consideration is to potentially put the damage on something like the Regidrago or the Regice. The bench damage isn't that relevant, but it's mainly just utilizing a 1 prize Pokemon to force Pablo onto odd prize cards while keeping tempo in pace. And all this is going to work out. The energy is fulfilled with the Training Court, knockout, 20 Regidrago again. This is just to make sure that if for some reason the Regidrago doesn't pivot out, that the knockout is already lined up for Aqua Bola. The damage isn't that relevant.
So now this is where Shady Dealings Inteleon, Aqua Bola Inteleon is taking over for Origin Form Palkia. Going to try to get as much value out of this Pokemon as possible before it goes down. Pablo, meanwhile, needs to find a way to bring Regirock back, get that set up, get the Ancient Wisdom, and it's just, you know, the same old song and dance of the Regis all working together. I love how it just becomes like this awesome tag team where you can power up a Regi and then retreat it. That energy goes right back into the discard pile. Cynthia's Ambition now going to draw Pablo back up to 8 cards.
Wow, big time find there. Finds the Choice Belt. That will be relevant down the line as well.
And Pokestop.
Yeah, has
the
Pokestop as well.
Blow in the Stadium War.
Yeah, I think Pablo's just debating to use this now or to play the Ultra Ball from hand. The pros on one side is by playing the Ultra Ball, you guarantee that you won't discard the card off Pokestop. The other side of doing this is you can find a few cards that you're going to want as well, and cards that you can maybe discard off Ultra Ball. Those are 2 key pieces. I don't think Pablo's going to be like saying, oh, yeah, I'm going to get rid of these. Choice Belt and Scoop Up Net are solid cards that are needed on Pablo's end to keep this strategy rolling.
And there it is, the Ultra Ball, as you said, Ethan, going to discard a Registeel. And what is the other discard? We saw the boss's orders eyed up, but I think Pablo is still trying to hold on to that as much as possible.
Yeah, I think
so you can save it for that maybe final 2 prize KO.
Yeah, the boss might have to go. Everything else seems solid. You don't want to discard Professor's Research because you want to have draw. You don't want to discard Scoop Up Net because you're already down 2 at this point. Ends up getting rid of the boss's orders is the choice. When it comes to this list specifically, Pablo is playing a pretty interesting supporter count, is playing the 2 copies of Boss's Orders in combination with the 2 copies of Cynthia's Ambition. So having not as powerful draw, really relying on Marnie and Research to get him the distance where he needs to be.
Yeah, and especially with Dragon's Horde and Pokestop, you have a lot more just natural card draw built into the deck, ways to claw your way back against Roxanne. So overall, I do like that supporter line. Meanwhile, Regidrago is powered up, has access to that Giant Fangs attack, more than enough to take down Shady Dealings Inteleon.
Yes, this game is playing out very similar to the game number 1. In fact, Isaiah is essentially a turn ahead as things stand because of the way that the prizes have been put, utilizing the Shady Dealings Inteleon as well to attack. Pablo's going to respond to even things up at 3. But Isaiah's going to go down to 2 prize cards here. If Pablo does not take a knockout this turn, all Isaiah needs to do is power up a second attacker, and it's as simple as announcing Subspace Swell twice will knock out anything in play, and Isaiah will force a game 3. We're also under 10 minutes now, so it doesn't look like 3 games will finish, but at minimum, Pablo is trying to either extend this game long enough to the point where it doesn't finish, which seems a little unlikely with how these players have been playing pace-wise, or Isaiah's trying to force a game 3 to at least squeak a match point out of this game.
Yeah, get a beautiful zoom in on Isaiah's hand. Has the Roxanne, is going to employ that just the right moment, and here it is.
There you go. Yeah, Roxanne is big. Not having access to Sobble right away is definitely a little bit of a miss. It's the sort of one of the risks you take when you play less copies of Sobble. You're only going into a 3-3 line anyway, so it makes sense, but you do still want extra copies sometimes. If you have to attack with your Inteleons, it means you're going to lose the Sobbles as well to evolve up into Drizziles.
But at the very least, if the Aqua Bullet does enough, you don't feel too bad about it going down because you've already gotten the power of the Shady Dealings. I think Isaiah Bradner has built this deck and recognizes that the key is simply Origin Form Palkia. You've got the Battle VIP Pass and the Irida. So the Sobble, while it is the backbone of the list, we know that at the end of the day, you can search through your deck through all the cards you want, but you still need attackers. And so Palkia is just offering that here in spades.
things look pretty clear for Isaiah, pretty much just saying, hey, if you have everything you need, if you have the ability to attack my Palkias and knock them out with Terra Spark every turn, I lose the game. I can't do anything to prevent that. I can't change the color at the bottom left of my card to be grass or something different, but this is all Isaiah can do. Say, I'm going to put you to as low of a hand size as possible.
I know, where's the water Dunsparce? Let's break the format.
Listen, Arceus is already too good because it has ability to have no weakness, right? We can't do that for every Pokemon.
But here we go, going to use the Pokestop.
Ooh, discards 2 Inteleon pieces. The Drizzile could be a little bit more consistency buff. The quick shooting is not as relevant, but yeah,
Takes the knockout.
Okay, so here we go. What are the 3 cards? Wow, look at this combination. Has the Capture Energy and Professor's Research in hand. This can find the last Reggie piece that is still in the deck if it's available. Pablo's just thinking, what piece do I have access to?
There
and
is
it looks like it is.
Drago in the prizes. I don't
no,
know
it's available. It's here. Regidrago is here, it seems. So there we go. And there's so little cards in deck, and there's still at least 2 to 3 Choice Belt in there. Has access to Pokestop and Professor's Research. Wow, look at things have unfolded for Pablo. An incredible draw there off that Roxanne.
Getting the 2 prize KO, like you talked about, Ethan, puts him ahead in the prize trade.
Oh, wow, and he can actually utilize the Regigigas again to use the ability of Dragon's Horde. And I don't even know if this research will get played. Sure, why not? Fill the hand up to 7 at this point. Only 3 cards left in deck. Wow, there's the Choice Belt. He found it.
The maximum power of the Reggies, thinning the deck down and making it so you have access to everything you need. There's the knockout, 2 prizes. Pablo goes down to 1 prize remaining in game number 2.
And so importantly there, he found the Choice Belt off the prizes. He needs that card the following turn to be able to knock out this Palkia. This is what it comes down to. Can Pablo get another Regieleki powered up and able to attack with a Choice Belt? Otherwise, all Isaiah has to do is take this knockout here on the active, and from there, it just comes down to, does Pablo have it? Otherwise, I've got the damage output, I've got the way to move my Pokemon. It's on you, Pablo. That's all this comes down to at this point.
And, of course, Isaiah already used that Roxanne, and might be able to disrupt a little bit more, but it's just, at this point, Pablo just needs to show, hey, I've got the Choice Belt, let's go. But what a fantastic showing from the Reggie deck. It's been rumored and whispered about across the first day, and here in the second day, we finally get to see it on stream. Isaiah's been playing his heart out as well. Despite the power of the Reggies, Isaiah's had a very consistent game plan, a very consistent setup every single time. You know exactly what you need to do for the matchup. Isaiah did everything that he was supposed to do when you are piloting a deck like this against a consistent lightning attacker, and it just comes down to the fact that Pablo's list is built to look and search and thin so drastically that you have those tools when you need them.
And this is the most frustrating part about playing against this deck, is it feels like you're playing against, it's like solitaire at this point. Like, it doesn't matter what you do, you just sit across your opponent, and if they have the nuts, if they have everything they need to just pop off and go crazy, you just sit there clueless, and you just are like, yeah, you're just like,
cut off one head, and then the Reggie just comes right back out of the discard anyway. So there's the cross switch. You're going to bring Regigigas into the active, 4 retreat cost on this.
Wow, just has to pass. Is there a scoop up net? Is there a way to bring energies back? Wait, has he found the route?
Do we have the Ancient Wisdom and maybe a manual attachment? Is this guy stranded?
There's 3 energy.
Isaiah looked through the discard pile.
Okay, there's enough energy here. There's 2 cards left in deck, so he can utilize Ancient Wisdom this turn, put 3 energy onto the Regigigas. But the problem with putting 3 energy is that another thing gets stranded. So here's really the issue. How many energy do you put on? I think it's actually smart to just put a single energy onto this Regigigas. That way, if it stays there, you can put the last 3 on to retreat out. And at worst case scenario, what could potentially happen is if you throw all your energy preparing for next turn, Isaiah could just bring up another Pokemon, but no, Pablo's going to bring this up. And I don't know how many energy are left in the discard pile. If Isaiah has another way to gust this up, and this is what we're checking, how many energy are in here? 1, 2. There's only 2 energy in the discard pile now. These Pokemon on the bench have a 3 retreat cost. That could be Isaiah's only play. Use another gusting card. Bring this Pokemon up on the bench that has nothing. Here's the Irida. If there's 2 Cross Switchers left in the deck, which I believe there are, I think Isaiah understands this is the only route that's possible. Gonna grab the Cross Switcher, the Drizzile as well, can find the second Cross Switcher piece. This is going to bring up either the Registeel or the Regirock. Wow, Isaiah has found this in-store line. Pablo might get punished for putting all the energy. It does say up to. You don't have to put 3 energy onto the Pokemon. And wow, I don't think Pablo had a way to move that. We're going to game 3.
Oh my God, got punished, got stranded, didn't have the energies in the discard, and that was just gonna result in a deck out.
Wow, that is a big time blunder there.
Isaiah playing towards that out. We saw how deeply.
Yeah, it says up to 3. I'm just double checking to make sure. Wow.
It says up to 3. You could have just done the Ancient Wisdom for 1 attachment as you speculated.
Yeah, and you see Pablo shaking his head. He can't believe he made a mistake like that on the big stage, shaking it off. You've got 1 minute 24 seconds. As long as players set up, this game isn't going to end, and it's going to be a tie between both of these competitors.
That game went so long, but Pablo was in position, got that key 2 prize knockout, and was ahead on the trade. And we saw Isaiah look through that discard pile, took that deep look, understood the number of energies, and found the line.
I'm still shook by that. Wow, what an obscure line. Oh, Pablo's going to be thinking about that for a while, I'm sure.
Yeah, out of scoop up nets, no way to pivot. And now as we head into game 3, there's no way a single prize Reggie deck. We saw how long the first 2 games took. Here, game number 3, there's no way for it to conclude.
3 Reggie Pokemon in the prize cards. Pablo's going to be starting things off. Hand's actually not looking too solid, but does have the ability to get things going with an Energy Lotto. I think I saw the Speed Lightning Energy already in the hand, but wow, that looked like Pablo's game to lose at this point, and the only route possible, such an obscure route, you don't see this a lot. Very rarely do you see deck out come into play between 2 attacking decks, but when your deck is now so much more aggressive than it was previous to the Pokemon Go expansion, because you get to discard an additional 3 cards every turn, you get left in a position where you're just naturally discarding so many energy. It's not a bad thing. You can constantly bring them back, but when you're constantly bouncing around attackers and not discarding the energy via retreating or just your Pokemon getting knocked out, it can lead to rare situations like that. That's one that I at least can say I've never seen before.
Pablo was closing in on a 2-0 here in Swiss Round 5 at the World Championships. I don't think he can be blamed for just getting a little bit too overzealous there, a little bit excited, and just one missed sequence, one, moment of closing your eyes, daydreaming, and you get punished for it. Heavy Ball now coming through to check the prizes, trying to find the Reggie setup. Even though we don't have any more time left in the round, Pablo and Isaiah are going to be able to quickly get their setups up and running.
So time should have been called at this point. That will mean Pablo is turn 0. There is still technically a way that Pablo can win this game, but if Isaiah just fills the bench with Pokemon, then there's no way either of this can complete. So this is the position we're at. There's the attachment to pass. I already see the Manaphy in hand, so the Manaphy could just come down. There's a Quick Ball as well. Yeah, it's just going to find another Pokemon. Both these players understand this game is not finishing. Isaiah, by the skin of his teeth, pulling a match point out of this match. Both players going to go to 3-0-2, not out by any means, but if they want to make top 8, top 16, they've got to win the rest of their matches, and that's going to be a hard feat to do.
Yeah, Pablo was so disappointed there to sign that slip, but at this level of competition, you cannot let up. You cannot give your opponent any means to manipulate the game when you're that far ahead, when you are closing in on the victory. But Isaiah Bradner finds the way, gets that one more point, and maybe that extra point will be the difference between making that top cut.
Oh, absolutely. You see how frustrated he is from that play. He'll be thinking about that for a while, and it's just when the pressure gets to you, when you feel so comfortable like a game is won, you can slip up and sort of let your foot off the gas a little bit and say, yeah, I put the 3 on here. I've got 2 energy left in my discard pile. I'm in more than a comfortable enough spot to close this game out, do what you need to do. But that really just shows the class of Isaiah as well, of seeing that, look, I know that I'm not going to be able to win this game by taking knockouts, but I can imagine your deck list probably looks something like this with your energy counts. I'm going to take a gamble and say, you know what? Here's my play. I'm going to try to bring up one of your Reggie Pokemon on the bench that are hefty. These are big Pokemon. These are Pokemon that are pretty hard to move. So once you get into that position, it just comes down to the fact that Pablo just didn't quite see that line. He's going to be well aware of this for the last game. Your mental is going to be so key going into this. After a game like that, you can't let yourself get down. You're still in an excellent spot. Undefeated, 3-0-2. All you've got to do is win 3 in a row. It sounds like a lot. Some people could say it's a little bit. It's going to be difficult at the World Championship stage, but mindset is a big thing. Pokemon isn't all just skill. It's about keeping your head in the game, keeping yourself focused. And Isaiah as well, after a stressful game, maybe having a little bit more confidence